Tyler Grant was a 28-year-old mechanic working in a sleepy Colorado town where the roads were dusty. The gossip was loud, and time seemed to run 10 years behind the rest of the country. He owned a small garage just off Highway 67, where he mostly fixed beat-up pickups and old farm trucks. That Thursday morning had started like any other, with the familiar scent of motor oil in the air and classic rock humming from the radio. But everything changed the moment he spotted a sleek, vintage Cadillac parked awkwardly near the edge of his property. He grabbed a rag and wiped his hands as he walked outside, squinting at the sunlight reflecting off the car's polished chrome. What stood out more than the pristine condition of the vehicle was the woman stepping out of it. She was tall, poised, and wrapped in a long camel-colored coat despite the summer heat. Her face was mostly hidden beneath oversized sunglasses and a loosely tied scarf. She didn't look like someone from around there, more like someone who had taken a wrong turn on her way to somewhere far fancier. "Need some help?" Tyler asked, his voice carrying the calm, low tone of someone who'd seen a lot, but judged very little. The woman gave a soft nod and spoke in a silky voice that hinted at a European accent. "Engine trouble, I think. Someone told me you're the best mechanic in this part of the state." Tyler let out a dry chuckle. "You?" "I heard wrong, ma'am. I'm just the only one for 40 miles. She gave no laugh, just a faint, graceful smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. He took her keys and popped the hood. The moment he looked inside, his instincts kicked in. It wasn't just a car issue, it was a test. This wasn't a typical breakdown. The gasket was blown, sure, but someone had tried to patch it up in a hurry, leaving behind evidence of a rushed job. While he worked under the hood, she paced nearby with her phone pressed tightly to her ear. Speaking in French or Italian, he couldn't tell the difference. He was used to hearing cowboy slang and Spanish around these parts, not whatever high-end language she was whispering. His assistant, Benny, leaned out from the side of the garage, eyes wide. "Who's that?" "Movie star," he muttered. Tyler ignored him. He was too focused on the strange pull in his gut that told him this woman wasn't just some lost traveler. She watched his movements with careful eyes, arms crossed and brows slightly drawn. When he got the engine to cough and then roar back to life, she approached him without hesitation. "You really are the best," she said, her voice now softer, closer. "How much do I owe you?" Tyler waved it off. "I'll give you the local discount." But before he could name a price, she pulled out a roll of cash and handed him $500 without blinking. Tyler stared at it. He didn't like being overpaid. It made things feel off balance. She leaned in slightly and added, "That's not for the work. That's for not asking too many questions." Then she handed him a small white card. It had no business name, just a phone number and one word, Celeste. And just like that, she was gone, the Cadillac gliding down the dusty road like a ghost. Tyler stood there long after the car had disappeared. There was something heavy in the air, like a storm building on the horizon. He slipped the card into his shirt pocket and told himself to forget her. But he couldn't. For the next few days, he found himself looking at every passing car, waiting for that Cadillac to return. She stayed in his thoughts like a song stuck on repeat. Then, 4 nights later, she was there sitting on the steps of his porch like she belonged, her coat pulled tightly. Around her, the scarf now gone. "I need your help again," she said, rising to her feet. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were frantic, those ice-blue eyes now fully visible and brimming with something that looked like fear. Tyler blinked in disbelief. "You drove all the way back here for car trouble?" She shook her head slowly. "Not for the car. For something else. I need to disappear for a while, somewhere no one will think to look." There was a pause before she added, "And I trust you." Tyler should have said no. He should have told her to keep driving. Instead, he led her up the stairs to the small guest room above his garage, barely used and filled with dusty tools and a twin mattress. She didn't complain. She just sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, Thank you. That night, he barely slept. He paced in the kitchen, sipping cold coffee and staring at the strange card she'd left behind. He had no idea who she was, or what kind of danger followed her, but something inside him, the same gut feeling that told him how engines ticked, said she wasn't a bad person. In the following days, they settled into an odd rhythm. She stayed mostly indoors, sometimes venturing down to help him wipe down tools or make coffee. He asked no questions, and she gave no answers. Town folk started whispering. Benny was the first to poke around. "She's too clean for someone on the run," he said. "You sure she's not some CIA type?" Tyler just shrugged, though he'd noticed the same. Her clothes were tailored, her manners refined. She cooked like a chef and handled herself like someone raised in luxury. One evening, while flipping through TV channels in the garage, a breaking news alert froze Tyler in his tracks. The image on screen showed a familiar face. Celeste Moreau, heiress to a tech empire, reported missing 2 weeks ago from New York. The photo was dated, but clear it was her. Tyler turned slowly to the stairs leading to the guest room. Before he could climb them, she appeared at the top, arms folded, looking like someone who had run out of secrets. "So now you know," she said. Tyler's throat felt dry. "You're her, the billionaire's daughter." Celeste walked down the stairs slowly. "I didn't come here to lie. I came here to survive." She explained in quiet tones how she'd discovered fraud inside her father's company, how high-ranking executives had siphoned money, covered it up, and planned to silence anyone who got in their way, including her. When she went to the board, they dismissed her. When she went to the media, someone followed her. She had no choice but to vanish. And in her desperate escape, she landed in Tyler's little town. Tyler listened without interrupting. When she finished, he only asked one question: "What now?" Celeste stared at the concrete floor of the garage. "I don't know. I can't stay here forever, but I can't go back until I know who I can trust." Tyler nodded, then grabbed his keys. "We'll fix up the room, add security. I know a few people who owe me favors. You won't have to run again, not from here." It was then she smiled, not the polite one she wore when she first arrived, but a real, soft, human one. As they started reinforcing the guest room with locks, new windows, and backdoor exits, Tyler found himself forgetting about her last name and fortune. To him, she was just Celeste, the woman who folded his laundry when he forgot, who asked him questions no one else bothered with, who sat beside him at night, watching the stars like they were ordinary people. But deep inside, he knew they were sitting on borrowed time. Her world would come, knocking, and when it did, everything he knew, his life, his safety, his quiet corner of the world, would be tested. Still, he didn't back away. Something about her made him feel needed, not just as a man with tools, but as someone who mattered beyond the grease and grime. And as Celeste sat beside him that final evening of summer, sipping iced tea and humming a lullaby in a foreign language, Tyler realized something else. She wasn't just hiding in his world. She had brought something with her. A shift, a storm, a purpose, one that wasn't done with either of them yet. The Colorado wind carried a new kind of chill as the days turned cooler. But inside the garage, something warmer had settled. Tyler and Celeste had developed an unspoken bond, one that didn't rely on explanations or promises. Each morning, she'd bring him coffee with exactly 2 sugars, and each night he'd leave a light on outside her room, just in case. Still, beneath their small comforts, Tyler knew it couldn't last. Celeste belonged to a world of skyscrapers, secrets, and billion-dollar decisions. He fixed old trucks and drank beer on porches. There was no bridge between their worlds until now. That night, as they sat beneath the stars, Celeste turned to him, her voice steady. "I need to go back." Tyler looked at her, expression unreadable. "Back where?" She didn't blink. "New York. I've spent weeks in hiding. If I stay here, they win. My father's company collapses. Innocent people lose everything. I can't let that happen. Tyler knew she meant it. Her voice wasn't fearful anymore. It was fierce. Then go, he said quietly, but not alone. She frowned. What do you... He set down his coffee. You'll need someone who doesn't play by corporate rules. Celeste hesitated, reading his face. You'd come with me? He shrugged. I've lived the same life every day for 10 years. Maybe it's time for something else. She smiled. But it wasn't relief, it was admiration. You don't know what you're walking into. Tyler stood up and dusted off his jeans. Nope, but I trust you, and that's enough. Within 48 hours, and they were on a plane to New York, one that Celeste had arranged through a trusted friend from her past. Tyler didn't ask questions. He just carried her bag and kept his eyes open. The moment they landed, the shift was immediate. Paparazzi were still hunting for her, but she was careful, wig, glasses, coat. Tyler, in his flannel and boots, blended in like furniture. They made it to her father's penthouse unnoticed, and Tyler finally met the man behind the headlines. Maurice Moreau, now wheelchair-bound from a recent stroke, but eyes still sharp as razors. So this is the mechanic, he muttered, voice raspy. You saved my daughter. Tyler nodded respectfully. She didn't need saving, just space. Maurice smiled faintly. You'll do. Then he wheeled toward the library, waving them in. There, behind locked doors, Celeste revealed everything: files, recordings, transaction logs, names of board members who'd orchestrated the embezzlement and planned to push her father out through manipulation and threats. Tyler watched silently, absorbing every detail. He didn't understand corporate takeovers, but he understood loyalty, and these people had none. We need to leak this, Celeste said, carefully, legally. Maurice nodded. But we'll need protection. Once this starts, it won't stop. Tyler leaned forward. Let me handle the outside. You two handle the inside. Celeste gave him a grateful glance. You sure? Tyler grinned. Always. Over the next 2 weeks, Tyler transformed. No longer the quiet mechanic from Colorado, he became Celeste's shadow-handling logistics, screening, contacts, making arrangements that didn't involve boardrooms or bank accounts. He worked with private security to ensure their movements were safe, monitored backdoors into digital systems with the help of a young hacker Celeste trusted, and kept everything tightly under wraps. Celeste, meanwhile, met secretly with journalists, federal agents, and legal advisors. What started as whispers became a roar. News outlets received anonymous packages, evidence spread. The fraud was undeniable and massive. One night, after a grueling day of coordinating with investigators, Celeste collapsed onto the couch beside Tyler. You've done more in 2 weeks than most people in my world do in a year. Tyler looked at her. That's because your world makes things complicated. Mine's simple. Something's broken, you fix it. She chuckled softly. Maybe I need to live in your world. He reached for her hand. Or maybe we build a new one together. Their eyes met, not with heat or urgency, but with something deeper, trust. That night, for the first time, they didn't sleep apart. When the arrests came, they came fast. 2 board members were taken into custody. 3 resigned in disgrace. Celeste's role in exposing the fraud became front-page news. But what surprised the world more was the man standing quietly beside her in every photograph, the mechanic no one could explain. Headlines read, "Who is Tyler Grant, the unknown hero behind a billion-dollar scandal?" Reporters dug into his past, finding nothing scandalous, just a small-town man with no debt, no secrets, and a spotless work record. America fell in love with the simplicity of him. Celeste handled the attention with grace, but Tyler struggled. The cameras, the assumptions, the fast-talking executives trying to pull him into their circles, it didn't feel like home. Celeste noticed. Morning, as they walked through Central Park, she said gently, "I can tell you're overwhelmed." Tyler nodded. "I miss grease under my nails," she smiled. Let's go somewhere quiet." That afternoon, she took him to a restored garage space in Brooklyn she'd secretly purchased. "It's yours," she said. "A new start, no cameras, just engines, like home but here with me." Tyler was speechless. Over the next month, Tyler brought in two old buddies from Colorado to help run the new shop. They worked on luxury cars, sports cars, and vintage engines, all while quietly becoming a symbol of honesty and grit. People lined up not because he was famous, but because they trusted him. And Celeste, she visited every day, sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes lunch, always watching him with that same quiet awe. The world had given her power and money, but Tyler had given her something she hadn't had since childhood: peace. It wasn't long before the question started again. "Are you two a couple?" reporters asked. "Will there be a wedding?" Tyler hated the spotlight, but he couldn't deny the truth, not to himself, and certainly not to her. One evening, beneath the hanging lights in the garage, he pulled out a small velvet box. "I'm not a rich man," he said, "and I don't have a fancy last name, but I'd marry you tomorrow if you'd let me." Celeste's eyes filled with tears. "I'd marry you right now." And so they did. In the quiet courthouse in Queens, with only Maurice, Benny, and a few old friends present, Tyler and Celeste said their vows. No paparazzi, no designer dresses, just a white sundress, a flannel shirt, and two people who had no business finding each other, but somehow did. The world wouldn't find out for weeks. When they did, headlines screamed, "Billionaire, heiress weds small-town mechanic in secret ceremony." But by then, Tyler and Celeste were already far from the noise on a back road in Colorado, sitting on the porch of a house she'd bought in his hometown. He went back to fixing cars. She worked remotely, overseeing the company her father passed on to her, renamed Moreau and Grant Innovations, in honor of both their legacies. Together, they hosted STEM, programs for underprivileged kids, and opened an auto repair training center for veterans. Their life wasn't flashy, but it was full. People traveled from all over the country, not just for his repairs or her speeches, but to see proof that two people from opposite ends of the world could build something real from the ground up. Celeste would often laugh about it late at night. "Remember when I first pulled up to your garage and you thought I was lost?" Tyler would smile. "You were lost, and so was I." They never pretended it was easy. Fame still chased them. Journalists still speculated. Investors still called. But they kept their boundaries tight, their values firm. And whenever they felt the world pulling them in too many directions, they'd return to that old porch in Colorado, where the dust still settled the same, and the silence still meant peace. Years later, people would write books about them. Biographers, filmmakers, podcasters, all trying to make sense of how a billionaire's daughter and a broke mechanic changed each other's lives. But those who knew them best said it simply: she brought him into a world that needed honesty, and he gave her something money never could purpose. Together they built something rare, something real, not just a life but a legacy, one that proved that the most powerful change doesn't come from wealth or speed or even revenge, but from the quiet courage to help a stranger on a broken road. And that stranger one day might change your life forever.